last time we showed you guys some finishing touches that are typically done to your Photoshop montage or collage. And to help you do that more productively, we're going to show a couple more videos on the specific techniques for doing that. So one challenge that sometimes people have is to deal with a cutout image that has white background, and in this case with some water textures and shadows that you might want to keep and superimpose on top of your rendering in Photoshop. So let's show you how to do that. So we're going to go to select, color range, and then just use the picker to click anywhere there's white color to choose the white background, and then just click OK. You can see how even though we were trying to select the white background, it selected other white areas on the cutout itself that we actually want to make sure we keep. So in this case, we'll go to quick selection tool right here. It's in the middle, and then you can see how there's a circle right here with the plus and minus sign. We can control the plus sign by holding down Shift key, and then if we hold down the Alt key, it becomes a minus sign. So this is for adding and subtracting selection area from a selection set. So we can also hold down the Alt key and the right button of your mouse, and then when we go from the left to the right with your cursor, we can actually change the size of the circle. The other thing is that if you hold the Alt key down and the right button of your mouse and you go up and down with your cursor, you can see how we can change the hardness of what you're doing. So in this case, we want to select a really delicate area, so we want to hold the Alt key down and the right mouse button and go to the left a little bit to make this circle smaller. And then we also want to remove these areas from selection. So we want to hold the Alt key down as we sort of move the circle across the white areas on the cutout that you want to remove from the selection set. So I'm going around by holding Alt key down. I'm going around to make sure that I don't select the white areas that I actually want to keep. Okay, so see, we can fine tune this selection area. So in this case, we actually want to go in and zoom in closer to see if we can add this white background between the two brothers to the selection set. So in this case, we want to hold down Alt key and right mouse button before we click on the, let's click on the selection tool again. You can see how the circle is too big for selecting that white area. So we want to hold the Alt key down, right mouse button, and go to the left side to make the selection tool smaller circle. And then we want to add to the selection set. So in this case, we want to hold the Shift key down and then just go through the Y area between the two brothers. Same here and here. We might want to actually zoom in further to fine tune it. So in this case, we will need to go, we can type in W, it's a shortcut to the quick selection tool, and then hold down the Alt key and then the right mouse button and go to the left even further to make the selection tool even smaller, and we want to hold the Alt key down to continue to fine tune the selection. And in this case, we want to zoom back in here, and in this case we want to add the Y pixels to the selection. So we want to type in W, shortcut for the quick selection tool, and looks like the circle is too big. We want to hold down the Alt key, right mouse button, go to the left to make it even smaller, and in this case we want to hold down Shift key to add the Y pixels do the selection, and then the Alt key to remove the gray pixels. Shift key again to add. So maybe the hardness needs to be changed. Alt key, right click, we go up to change the hardness, and then we want to remove the gray area by holding down the Alt key and just go through the gray area. Holding down the Shift key to add the white area. So let's take a look at that. Looks good enough. So now we can go to select and do select inverse. Shift Control I. So before we were selecting the white background to be deleted, now we just selected the cutout itself with some water and shadows in the water that we want to keep. So let's then do Control C. And then now we're gonna go back to an earlier version and do Control V. You can see how it got brought in as a separate layer. We can then just say family right here, double click on the layer. And then we can move this layer to the foreground and do Control T, which is a shortcut for transform. And then we can drag the corner. If you drag the corner, it's gonna scale proportional. You'll hold the Shift key down. And then hit enter to finish the transform, and then we can now move them closer and see if you think the scale looks right and so on. Okay, now the shadow in the water looks a little bit abrupt in terms of how it overlaps with the existing water texture. And we're going to show you how to do that in a separate video. See you in the next video.